before I gather all the questions, let's see who's in the panel at the moment. We have Jan Niklas Wortmann, Dan Bellen, Ruben, Metek, and we have Katharina. So let me quickly sort the stuff out here, and we're gonna shoot one of the first questions. Let's start with Jan. Jan, there is one question related to your library. Since when are you working on that library? When did you start it? And what was the whole process of getting that running?
So I started with that, at least the idea was at RxJS Live last year, where I talked with Matt about RxJS version 4, which actually had DOM support already, and therefore also had support for the geolocation API and mutation observer. For some reason, this wasn't migrated over to RxJS 5, so I had a chat with Ben, and he was like, oh yeah, that's a cool use case. We should definitely have something like that. And then finally, I think in April, something like that, I started with that. And since then, more or less, I'm working on that.
Pretty cool. I checked it out already. I see you're pretty lazy on the tests. Anything to defend yourself? No, I'm just joking. I was really impressed how nicely structured you put at the table there, and all the operators said. Small joke aside, I really like the structure and the listings.
I do agree, though. But on the other hand, it's open source, so if anyone wants to contribute a test, I would highly appreciate it.
One information from Warsaw Studio is that guys who are watching us, if you'd like to attend and join this video call, the link is on forum on our web. So this conversation might be open for any of our attendees. So beware of that. And if you are watching us, feel free to join if you'd like to ask some questions directly. Michael, again on you.
Good that you didn't hear me because I was buzzing again on the test coverage. So before I go on with that, there is one funny question in the queue to Nir Kaufmann. Tell us, who's that guy on the picture?
That's my alter ego.
Your alter ego. So we wanna have some more information on your alter ego, how you like getting around with it and so on.
Well, it makes you feel uncomfortable, which that was the target. He lives in Australia. He like to hang out by the river, fishing, fighting crocodiles. And basically, I'm just having a very, very, very bad hair day, so I'm hiding behind a filter.
I see it. To get to some more serious stuff, I watched your talk and you gave a couple of suggestions on how we should structure our code, how we should name variables, functions, and so on, and how we should in general think about in a broader context. So what if I hand over this snippet of code to somebody else? Since when are you practicing this, that focused, and what was your whole process? Can you tell us some main learnings that you did on that way?
Yeah, so first of all, there is a very, very, very famous book, which for me, that's the Bible of clean code. It's called Clean Code by Uncle Bob. This is a book that I think every developer should have a printed version on his shelf. But generally speaking, it's just a thing that we tend to forget as developers, even senior developers, even people that has writing code for years. We tend to forget that eventually the bottom line is that we need to read and understand what's going on. So, been working in the community for a long time, for a lot of years. I think all of us have seen this very interesting process where we start by reducing the amount of characters and line of code again and again and again. Any iteration, we make some shortcuts and reducing the amount of code until it gets into a point when we understand what's going on, but it takes us an extra minute to understand or investigate to see why the name is this way and where this is coming from. And my own process right now is trying to reverse it. I mean, trying to get back to imperative coding. I mean, write as much as I can to help me understand what's going on. Not sparing any characters, like a story. I don't care. It costs me an extra minute to type some more stuff, but I want to read it and completely understand it. And there is a very nice article somewhere, how do you identify a senior developer code? So like a senior developer code is like a very, very, very simple. I've got an exercise that I'm giving my students, and if anyone hears us right now, give it a try. Try to forget all the fancy new keywords in JavaScript and try to implement a very complicated feature using nothing but a function, a for loop, var, and if statement, and that's it. You are allowed to use only 4 keywords. And you will be amazed how you can write very complicated stuff in a very readable manner when you just, you just forget about all those, well, arrow functions, it's cool, so let's use it everywhere. Anonymous is, all right? So that's the point, basically. That's my process right now.
Yeah, pretty interesting. I also studied a little bit code structures and this stuff, because I tried to learn this annotation in like a more fluent way. I want to look at code and clearly see, is there a bottleneck or somewhere? So I gained a lot about that, and I really love your suggestion for the exercise.
Thank you.
Did you get any bad feedback about your opinion and the way you teach it?
Always. And for all of us that are listening right now, once you're starting to get negative opinions, it means that you are in a very good spot. It means that you've got your own opinions. It means that things that you are saying, it's actually moving people and create some discussion around it. So when the most terrible thing that I think exists in the industry, if everyone always agree with you, it means that you are doing something wrong. If everyone always agree with you, you're probably doing something wrong. I want people to do not agree with me, don't agree with me, argue with me, prove me that you can do it better. I want to make you feel, no, that's nonsense. It's not realistic. Let me show you how to do it. This way I can learn. So that's the trick. But that's the point. People don't, if people agree with you all the time, now you need to recalculate your career, something wrong. Make an opinions and stand for it and let people argue on it. Otherwise, what's the point?
I see. I guess we can argue in some minutes, because we again today will have some like open discussion round here in this channel. But before I spend too much time talking to your alter ego, I will switch to Ruben. I met Ruben the first time in Germany. I guess it was in Darmstadt. Is this true, Ruben?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool. So I had the right thing in mind. Before we go on with some more detailed questions, how is life on supporting Node.js? How much time do you spend on that, let's say in a week? And yeah, what are your general experiences with that work?
So that highly depends. And at the moment, I spend way less time than I would like to invest into Node.js itself, because there is just a lot of things ongoing. Sometimes it's impossible to invest more time. So there's not a general answer to that question. I guess sometimes I worked 60 hours for a node in a week, and some weeks I didn't work in a single minute on it, because it's an open source product, and it's always your personal decision when you're going to work on something and when not.
I see. Yeah, I guess we have to balance it in as good as possible. Yeah, absolutely. Regarding your talk, you talked about memory leaks, and yeah, also a topic that is very, very interesting for me. In general, all the stuff that is going on behind the scenes related to memory, to like performance, is in the last year very, very interesting for me. And before we go into more detail, did you have like your most favorite finding in terms of memory leaks and so on? Like, did you had a specific bug that you discovered which was like so funny or so outstanding that you will never forget it?
Not really. So mostly there were a few where I struggled to identify those when I was younger. And therefore I'm happy to know more about memory leaks today and to be able to identify them easier. I know sometimes I guess like the last time I remember when I was really personally struggling with something was roughly 6 years ago. And we tried to find something that in a production application and was really difficult to identify. And we did manage it at some point, but I do not remember anymore what it was. Otherwise, mostly it's possible to identify the things with the tooling. Tooling became so much better over time. This is really awesome. I love the dev tools and what they become.
Definitely. So it's like a treasure case. What I really enjoy is like the newer features, for example, timing triggers, where you can see which code snippets was like scheduled or like initiated by which trigger. There was a timeout, I don't know, 100 threads ago, turns ago of the event loop, and you want to figure out so who was like initializing this function. Pretty cool. But let's stick to the topic memory leaks. I have a very specific one. At the moment, I try to figure out how I can measure the memory pressure on a function, on a snippet of code, how to detect some minor garbage collection stuff. Is this something that you say it's like very close to a leak if I have problems with like expensive garbage collection?
I would say it's somewhat in the same ballpark, yes, because mostly you should really, like if a function is allocating so much memory that you have to worry about it, then you clearly have to pay attention to it and refactor your code in a way that it does not use as much memory. You should probably have a look at the data structures and the algorithm that is used. And that would be a recommendation. I would also suggest that you look at the garbage collection process. In this case, if memory is still referenced, because this is the most common case, right? That you just do not free the references early enough. You can run the garbage collector with Node explicitly to see also if it's just a non-deterministic problem, if the garbage collector is not triggered in the right moment, and you should check about these things. Obviously, I do not know about the specific code that you are trying to run, and therefore it's difficult to give a concrete answer to what is best in this case.
It was a good enough answer, I would say. Jan had his library, Nir had the shout out for Uncle Bob's Code, Clean Code book. Do you have any pick, any shout out for us for a cool book or something that you can suggest in this area? Question? Can you hear me? Am I online?
Yep, you are.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yep.
Strange. Yeah. Do you have any suggestions, any books, anything that you say you should have to read that, Ruben? I'm still talking to you. Can you hear me?
Oh, I'm sorry. It sounded like you were asking the question to someone else. I'm very sorry.
No problem. I guess I was more confused than you.
I just noticed now. Sorry. And a good book about that. Oof. I do not have any book
articles.
in my mind. I'm sorry?
Maybe a good article?
I do have a good article. It was actually in my slides, one of the links. Let me have a look at that. I have to look up the slides, and I'm going to post a link in here. Besides that, I highly recommend to check out the V8 blog. So if you really are interested in memory handling and what you can do, or how the garbage collector works, and want to dig into that to really understand how everything works, then the V8 blog is really great. It will give you a very good oversight of how all these optimizations were done, because this is very performance critical. And memory means performance in the end. If you allocate too much memory, your process is going to suffer from that significantly, and you should try to free the memory soon, and you should free the correct memory, and you should free all the memory. And these are obviously difficult problems to get all right in a fast algorithm. And this is what the V8 team worked on a lot. So yeah, just check out that blog. That's definitely something you should do.
Pretty interesting. Thanks a lot for your very detailed answers. Let's go on. And I see next in line here is Katharina. Can you hear me loud and clear?
I can hear you.
Perfect. Welcome. I have to say I'm pretty impressed about your presentation today. I have a personal question. So you struggled with the different situations. How does it feel to present your own problems? Let's say it in that way. How does it feel? Did you Are you already done with all of that, or is it still a little bit stressful to talk about this situation?
It's still a little bit stressful, and to be honest, I gave this talk before once when I had imposter syndrome. It was at the very beginning of 2020. It was 3 weeks after I found out that I have that. And talking about it and reading about it helped me a lot. I still struggle with some stuff, but it's way much better than at the beginning. And to be honest, there was one situation at the meetup that I spoke. There was a guy from my team, and after this meetup, he started giving me a lot of feedback, and I forgot that I was giving this talk, and I was thinking constantly, what the hell does he want from me? But it helped me a lot, and I saw that people at my company, when they've heard about my talk and about imposter syndrome and about how communication is good, they started communicating more. Mm-hmm. And it helped me a lot, way much more than just struggling with it just by myself.
I see. Yeah, pretty cool. I really like to have also such kind of talks on a conference, just to have real life problems, right?
Right, good. Right. And
come again.
On the meetup, because here I wasn't able to talk with people, but after the meetup, a lot of people came to me and told, well, I thought that I should switch job right now, but probably I have imposter syndrome as well. Thanks for the talk. I've came here to listen about React, but I enjoyed your talk more.
Pretty good. Yeah. It's not every problem is a code problem. So I guess the biggest problems are, of course, our own problems, not problems of somebody else. But I guess this is a very, very interesting and very important part to have in our culture and discuss in our culture. Okay, cool. Let's switch to the next one. We have 9 minutes left. We also want to have a small discussion in this group, so let me go to Mitek. Mitek, can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, I can hear you. Hi, guys.
Yes, you can hear me. We can also hear you loud and clear. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. A little bit sick, but it's okay. Everything will be fine. That was my biggest worry before.
Sorry. Regarding your talk on chatbots, it's quite an... I have to excuse from front off for the statement. It's quite an old topic. There were a couple of talks in the last years about it. It had its peak. Then there were more researches. What I was really wondering is, related to this new chatbot from Google, Mena, how do you pronounce it?
Yeah, it's Mina. I had problems, the same problem. Yeah, Mina.
So I was wondering...
Sorry, continue again.
Yeah, I was wondering, is it really worth putting that much money and then that much manpower in such problems? Is it really worth it? Or are we just doing it because we want to be the new cool kid on the block and just throw money on the newest hyped topic?
Yeah, actually with Google Mina, it's not released. It's not yet released, and they, try to be sure that they don't follow a problem Microsoft had a couple of years ago. They in 2016, if I remember correctly, they released Tedge. Yeah, and after a couple of hours, that Tedge it was switched on Twitter, right? So after a couple of hours, it posted posts full of racism, etc. So I think
Twitter, this zombie.
So they switch off that Tedge after 8 hours, if I remember correctly. So I think currently Google tried to do not repeat the same problem, and they're still working on this. I think that they put a lot of money on this, maybe to show an ability that, machine learning and artificial intelligence work. Maybe it's connected to their Dialogflow service. There probably is a lot of reasons why they're working on this topic. The funny thing is, in my opinion, we don't have too much information about this, so they try to keep that in secret. I don't know why, but everything I've got, it's only a couple of articles about this. Nothing official. I couldn't dive into any documentation and anything. So.
Yeah, still pretty interesting, because I guess the biggest problem here is not a technical problem. You teased it a little bit. This chatbot in 2016 that turned into a zombie and was like stating all couple of weird statements and so on. So when I think about that, I believe that this AI system should have some knowledge about moral, even more about ethics. So I believe if you can think about moral, it's like for one specific group thing sector. Ethic is like more a broader context, and this questions and answers in ethics are unsolved yet, right? We have philosophers that write thousands of books on that and repetitively show that there is no real good answer on a lot of questions. So do you believe this is, I'm on the right track with that guess here, that this is a bigger problem than the technical one?
I think that's the bigger problem. You should have to put some, moral, some personalization to machine, if I can say so, right? So it's about combining human being with everything we have inside us, with machines, some servers and clouds and that kind of thing. So very difficult, but I totally agree with you. It's not about technology, because in this case, I think, and especially with Google, there's no limitation, but the problem with personality of chatbots, that kind of thing.
Pretty cool. Yeah, I'm really interested in future discoveries on that topic. I can really not wait to maybe to get answer on my current question. Maybe I should ask some real inventors of the stuff what they say to that thing.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We have a last one to Valentin, can you hear me? First of all, how do I pronounce your name correctly? I know it from myself because my name is Latki and I on myself cannot pronounce it, so I try to get others right. How do I pronounce your at least your first name?
No, it's fine. It's Valentin. It's more like a Slavic pronunciation.
I see. Valentin, I remember when my first contact with TypeScript was, I was sitting on a project. I guess it was some AngularJS Ionic related thing. Back then there was no JavaScript. The CoffeeScript was hyped, and it was just at the very beginning. And my previous product manager, or let's say lead developer, was forcing me to use TypeScript. And I was like sitting there. There were a couple of articles online about that stuff. And I was really wondering, what guess is that? Like, I mean, I cannot bet such a big project on a really experimental thing. So, yeah, and then I was impressed. Sorry, let me get the whole circle back. Yeah, and then I was impressed that it took off that hard. It is like, I can guess pretty sure more used than Flow, as far as I know. And yeah, this was my story, my story, how I was impressed about that technology and the turn that we have in that technology. What is your story? How long are you using TypeScript? Did you were an early adopter, or did you start it just a couple of months, whatever ago?
Okay. My story actually, I'm initially from a .NET background, so I used to write in C# for years. Then I had kind of a big break in coding, like about 3 years when I was doing a managing job. And at some point of time, I understood that I want to go back. I want to really get into programming once again. And I started to do some JavaScript and stuff on a weekend basis. And I understood that I really cannot put myself into this paradigm. I really miss the compilation stuff and so on. And then someone told me, okay, try to use Angular 4 by the time. It was 2016, if I'm not mistaken. And it helped me a lot because I could just type tsc command or npm start and I see how it's compiled. I see what's going on. And that was my, like a fresh breath of a fresh air, or my ticket to web development, because I finally started to understand that. Maybe it's not, maybe it's because I'm just was so into the C# and that kind of paradigm, and it was hard for me. But I asked a lot of people, and a lot of people actually really like that static analysis thing and the compilation. But it's still, you understand that you have JavaScript, and it gives you a sense that everything is fine, but it's not. At the end of the day, you still need to think carefully about how this will work and stuff. But the interesting fact that I heard it on some conference, I don't know, 10 years ago, about some company who did static analysis for C# code. You see the C# code and static analysis for that. And they helped other companies to fix like 40% of bugs just by static analysis. So it makes sense, but still you can get some issues with that also.
I see.
So that's kind of my story. And after I tried like 3 or 4 years ago, I'm using it everywhere. So even if I'm starting the project and there is a JavaScript, I'm trying to convince everybody that we need to go to, with TypeScript, we need some checks and stuff. And we do.
Pretty cool. Thanks. Maybe let's do one more specific one and then start over with some group discussion, maybe on TypeScript, because I just read a pretty cool comment from Chris Heilmann. He was at Mozilla before, so he moved from JavaScript to TypeScript. Pretty funny statement. I would love to have some general discussion on TypeScript after the next question. So maybe we can all have some thoughts on that topic. And I will ask a quick one to Chris. Chris Noring, I can't see your picture here, so I'm a bit confused if you can hear me or see me, but I assume you're in the chat. Oh, perfect.
I'm able to hear you. See you too.
Now I switched my screen and now I can see more. Perfect. How are you doing? You had a great talk on Svelte. I was like impressed. I never spent that much time with it. What I liked the most was the spread operator of properties. Like I spread an object and I have it as input bindings to the component. What's your most favorite like shorthand there? Or should I say template annotation? I don't know, however you want to call it, right?
I think it's probably the await one, where I can resolve a promise. I think it's really powerful that I'm able to, say I'm waiting for a promise, but also say render this on success and render that on error. And the fact that I'm able to express that in the template just saves me a ton of time. I would say that's my number one favorite for sure.
Pretty cool. I guess this is at the moment an interesting topic. You said like, so the way how I understand it, you bring laziness from your class into your template, right? Mm-hmm. Resolving a promise not in the class and then doing some for handing over the promise itself. This is what you meant by bringing that behavior in the template.
Yeah, because I mean I think the alternative would otherwise be to be inside of JavaScript and say, okay, here's a error. How do I handle that? How do I wrap this into something else? I mean, you can definitely combine the two, right? Because most of the time when you get something back from a server, you want to massage it a bit. You want to give it into a view model and you want to present it. And even if you get an error, you don't want to show, I don't know, whatever stack trace or whatever else comes from the backend. So you might need that extra massage anyway, but I think the point is still, it's a very clear flow and it becomes very clear what goes where in the template.
Pretty cool. I guess I would say that's it with the general questions. We want to have a couple of minutes, a small discussion in this group here in between us. And as it is already in our chat history here, I would pick TypeScript. It is a very general topic. All of us have some experience with that, and some of us specifically. And maybe I can poke. I know that Liliana had a very great experience from refactoring a JavaScript project to TypeScript, and Chris said in the chat he moved from JavaScript to TypeScript. So one of you two, what are your opinions, experiences with switching the technology from JavaScript to TypeScript? Liliana, maybe you can go first.
Hi, sure thing. Experience-wise, I think the very, very first thing that we saw was just how much better it made your development environment. It was like somebody was suddenly watching out for you, the little mistakes that you were making. You didn't have to think about the little things or what are you passing around, or if you had to call a function, what are the parameters that you're calling. It was suddenly a guided experience, which was really, really nice. And immediately you started picking things up that were just like, oh, wow, why did we do that? Or, ooh, this doesn't look right whatsoever. So it was a very nice way to validate some of your code, especially if you've got some old code dusted away somewhere that's never been touched. So that's been lovely. And yeah, so to me, it completely changed how I develop. And it's even forced me, showed me a different way how to use a different IDE. It's guided how I code entirely.
Pretty cool. Yeah, I can only say positive stuff about it. Chris, do you have any negative or any downsides of TypeScript?
Ooh, because I work at Microsoft, I get that question.
Sorry, I was Chris Heilmann. Sorry, Chris Heilmann. Too many Chris's here at Microsoft, I have to say.
We have plenty of Scots too, but yeah, I'm going to leave it to Chris.
Yeah, sometimes it's too perfect and too easy. That's basically the main downside of TypeScript. No, it's just I think the biggest problem is that people moving from JavaScript to TypeScript is that you get into an environment where you need to do conversion, where you actually don't just write the code and it runs in the browser, but you actually have to set up your environment to actually start executing the JavaScript that you want, that you wrote before. And there is also the problem that, or not a problem, that you have to set up source maps to do the debugging, that basically you don't see the live code that is in the browser, that is the source code that you were before, which always was the exciting thing about JavaScript on the web, that you actually had the immediacy of your code is the same with what that the browser sees, but now we can optimize in between
And of course, we do optimize in between. I think when it comes to certain sizes of projects, there's just no way around a type system on top of your code, because otherwise you just go crazy. I mean, I remember I saw years ago when I worked at Yahoo, we had like Yahoo Maps, and then we saw Nokia Maps for the first time with like 1 million lines of JavaScript without any pre-compilation and anything like that. And that's impossible to actually maintain. Without actually being the person that wrote the 1 million lines. And of course, once you have a type system on top of a language, you understand that your tools become much more powerful. Like the insights that the code insights that Visual Studio Code and Visual Studio has with a typed language, and also refactoring, automatic refactoring, that's not possible without the type system. So that one is where it comes into its own, where actually when you have a huge code base and you have to refactor something, TypeScript really, really makes that much easier than JavaScript. And what I love most about it is that it's JavaScript in itself. It's not another language that comes in it. I mean, I have to work with Clojure as well in developer tools. I had to work with CoffeeScript in the past, and there were all kind of other weird languages that were like the new cool things in sliced bread. But TypeScript just is JavaScript in itself. It just gives you the opportunity that we had classes and we had a class system before JavaScript supported it. So I guess it gave us a much faster shortcut to a world that is necessary when we actually live in a world with modules and in terms of security and performance. Works much better when you put your microphone on.
I was muted. That's the problem of being live, right? Okay. Minko, you wrote a very, very early book on Angular, and I remember that this was one of the first bigger things that were written in TypeScript. What are your experience from writing this book? I'm pretty sure you also stuck to JavaScript only back then. Any cool insights?
Sure, yeah. I was actually using, around the time when I started working on my book, I think TypeScript was... So let me go back to probably 2013 maybe. I realized that a lot of the issues in my code were actually happening from just misspelling a property name or just not applying an operation or a function on top of the right types. So I tried to add a bunch of assertions, a bunch of runtime assertions to implement some kind of runtime type checking. And I built a React application actually back then for my startup Prime. Around the time when Angular adopted first AdScript and or invented AdScript, and right after that moved to TypeScript, I was really excited about that. I spent a lot of time looking at the Angular monorepo just to understand how the framework works, because at the time when I was writing a book, pretty much there was no documentation. So in order to learn Angular and write a book, I had to understand the source code first. But TypeScript, I would say it made it much easier, because I have some experience with the AngularJS code base as well. TypeScript made it more readable because of these familiar constructs from other languages. We didn't have to have nested closures, let's say, and nested functions, and we had really well-defined interfaces of the individual abstractions that are communicating with each other.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's the short experience.
Thanks. I also always have to remember that you finished your book, and then I guess the last RC release of the framework broke everything in your whole text. So whenever I think about that.
Yeah, I finished the book. We published it with RC4, and RC5 introduced ng modules. So I had second edition of the book where we added ng modules. But the good thing is that the second edition, and even the third edition after that, which had just some small tiny changes, it's up to date. So we didn't break the framework since then.
That's good to hear. Karen, any experiences you want to share with us regarding moving from JavaScript to TypeScript? Any positive, any negative, anything interesting from your side?
Well, basically, I had a positive experience as you switch to, in my previous work, we switched from regular JavaScript to TypeScript, and the benefit of it is that you can do it step by step. You don't have to change all your code. You can start only the new classes and the new files that you had to start writing in TypeScript. And basically, what is good about TypeScript is like a contract. You tell in advance which property you are expecting to get in which type, and then you prevent errors. And if somebody else gets into your code and try to read it to understand what you meant to do in that section, it is much more readable, much more understanding. It's a good practice, I think. So.
Yeah, I also really enjoyed it. I said before, at the beginning of the Q&A session, I was forced a pretty long time ago to use TypeScript, and I was surprised after like 1.5, 2 days, it was no problem for me to read and write that stuff on the screen. I was like really, really enjoying that switch. I would have a question to Darius. Darius, are you here? I can see your window here, but I'm not sure if you can hear us. If not, we have Ski here. I can see you, Ski. Ski, how are you? You're muted. Ski. Yeah, you don't have to wait for Darius. We just want to see when we can get over to the next point in our program, because there is another party scheduled.
Yes, so it turns out that the party, I can double check and connect with Darius and check if he's, if the party is still on. 1 second. My handy tool here.
Guys, you don't have to call anywhere. I'm just right here. But great for you, Przemek, to call me. That was cool. The party is still on. We can keep on going here, but no, probably you can just you can continue the conversation, and that'll be fun. But probably we can just hold here for a while and sum up and wrap around where we are right now, and just to thank you to you guys. So. Saying that,
I have a question.
I also.
Oh yeah. Okay. So let's.
I have a question actually for all, because me getting into this year, actually, I finally, after years of joining you guys all up here, I finally got into cybersecurity on my side. And so I'm just getting my experience with the coding and programming and getting my feet wet. And what was interesting to me were the imposter syndrome, and it's so relatable. So I'm just curious if you guys have so much experience already, years and years of experience. How many of you can, with a show of hands, how many of you can relate to the imposter syndrome? Like almost everyone. Wow, this is incredible. That was my gut feeling, that this imposter syndrome, and I found out about it like a month ago. It's very prevalent when among the developer coder community. So I think it's something really cool that Kasia and then Jason were so harping on. Because I think we need that. So awesome. It's good to hear that even with experience, you still have those feelings.
Yeah, I can only agree. Therefore, I was telling Kasia that I was so impressed that she's like communicating the whole story and everything. And I guess I can imagine it's pretty also a releasing feeling, because you don't talk about stuff, you isolate stuff, and whenever you isolate something, it's under pressure, right? So then you walk around with whatever it is under pressure, and if you can communicate it only a little bit, I guess this is a really amazing tool to release that pressure.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I'm happy that a lot of people know how to communicate, how to be respectful and thoughtful in what you say and what you ask. You can also ask somebody with question, a stupid one, not so well thought one. So I really like it how the community is behaving and respecting and also considering a lot more than just technical stuff.
Beautiful.
Thanks, I hear that often. No, I'm just joking. Okay, it was too serious. It was too serious, so I had to make a joke. Laura is smiling in the camera. Laura, you wanna join the discussion? I guess you related somehow.
Yeah, I have to say first of all that of course I confuse time zones, so that's why I'm here just right now. Things happen. But yeah, I don't know what I was going to say. Imposter syndrome and what I was going to say? What was the question? I have to admit that I'm here for the party. That's it.
You only come for the party. I see. That's a smart move. Just coming for the party is always the best one. Okay. Good. There was... Let me switch the chat. He's gone. Where is our moderator with the microphone? He wanted to say something. Or was it just a wrongly...
He probably started partying already.
Okay. So, do you have any more information, Ski, about the party?
So far...
Because otherwise, I mean...
we should
I can stay here forever. I can stay here forever, but some of us may have meetings or something, and I don't want to be unpolite. So, just a quick feedback. What do you believe how we should go on from here?
One more call to Tomek. Again.
Yeah, he's right in that, and I will just talk to Joe Seppi, because
okay.
I know Joe indirectly and directly from 2 years ago from a conference. Joe, I never spoke to you into today's meeting. You wanna join the discussion with some funny statements, maybe?
I've been chatting in the chat, but thanks for having me. Happy to be here. I hope everything's been going swimmingly, and nice to see everybody.